Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name's Colin Hancock, and I'm the Head of Department for Policy, Innovation and Knowledge here at EASA Certification, and I'll be moderating this morning's session. So as my first action, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Florian Guillerme, to the stage for the introduction.
Okay, yes. You can hear me apparently. Yes, very good. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for this short introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. So I'm still new in this business, especially as my background is more coming from the operations than from the certification domain, but I'm still in the learning curve thanks to the great team of EASA who is bombarding me with a number of briefings, but they are all very useful. So I'm 7 months in the job, so I don't know everything, but I just wanted to address you very briefly this morning to share with you a few, I would say, strategic axes that I have in mind and that we are working on with the colleagues at EASA. 3 of them are more kind of related to the big challenges we face in industry, and one is more related to our internal way of working, but as well the way we interact with you, which is the very purpose of this conference, to make sure that we hear from you, we hear from the trends of the industry, and that we have an efficient and effective way of working together. So coming to the first part of my short introduction, I wanted to highlight the fact that the primary strategic axis or the primary challenge I think we all face together is to remain focused on safety. I say that in each and every speech I have to give. It's very the DNA of the agency to keep this focus. We are the safety authority for aviation in Europe. And we have to make sure that we set the tone from the top in terms of not being complacent at any time with the safety topic. Beyond those big words, what is very relevant in my view is that safety is never for granted. I lived that through my experience in the operations. It's not because you had a perfectly safe system yesterday that it is safe today and that it will remain safe tomorrow. We live in a changing world. The environment is changing. The way we are conducting business in aviation is changing. We have a transition of generation which is happening as well. So how we transmit the culture of safety, how do we make sure that we keep a very strong focus of it, again, is never for granted, and I really plea for this collective work to make sure that we keep it at the top of the agenda. Safety means as well that we should keep the focus on safety and not on compliance for the sake of compliance. So I'll come back to that later on. I think we have somehow a very comprehensive regulatory framework. My experience of being or having been a user of this framework from the outside world is that sometimes you wonder if it's really delivering added value, if it's really bringing added value in terms of safety in particular. So we have to be mindful as well to make sure that we leave enough room for each and every stakeholders to keep the focus on safety and not doing a checklist for the sake of doing checklists, but really making sure that those checklists are going to deliver added value. Second element I wanted to highlight, which is part of the big transformation we face in aviation, is about sustainability. We are all engaged collectively in the decarbonation of aviation, in this big transformation, which is the license to operate of aviation in the future and even in the near future. We are here to make sure at EASA we can certify the products that will be coming from the industry, to make sure that we are getting ready, to make sure that we are being prepared with the new technologies of hybridation, of different components that will have to evolve in the aviation system to perform this sustainability transition. And we are very much mobilized. The agency has already done a great deal of work in making sure that we are working in advance in the research and development domain to get prepared, to be ready. to make sure that it will not be a surprise when the products and the application will be coming to us. And this is obviously an endeavor and a strategic axis that we will continue in the years to come. And again, we are pretty much here to hear from you as well on how you see this transformation, at which pace it will come, what will be the prominent technologies that may appear in the years to come to be certified. The third axis I wanted to mention is really about the pace of innovation in our domain. I think we've seen that in many fields of society, of the industry, everywhere in the world. The digital transformation is happening. We had in the past a very strong focus on the tangible asset. Now this focus is kind of blended with digital components. And this is really something that is transforming, I think, the industry all the way through, from the products, but as well from the production part, from the design part. And this is something we have to reflect upon to as well bring our capability at agency level, but as well by working with you to a level of cooperation where we have an ability to deal with this space, which is a very fast pace. Components that were on the market about 3-4 years ago are already becoming obsolete in this domain. So how do we deal with this? This is really a trend that is new in the aviation domain. We are more used to having very long cycles of 10, 15, 20 years for some of them. We know how long it takes to build a new aircraft from scratch. Here we face a much faster transformation, which has as well implication in terms of design, in terms of how it interacts with the safety components. But this is as well a great opportunity to blend our system with the digital age, making sure as well we can rely much more on data, we can rely on facts and figures. I just mention one example from that standpoint. We are still, when we're dealing with the safety management system, using a lot of voluntary reports or mandatory reports, but we just shed the light on very small parts of the system. With the digital transformation, we have the ability to collect a massive amount of information, which will tell us what is the safety levels that we reach overall in the system. So that's for those three axes, which are not new to you. They are really across the industry, and I know these are challenges we all have in mind. I just wanted to focus in the last part of this intervention on how we work together and as well what is happening with EASA, with the agency itself. One thing I wanted to highlight first is that the agency has grown, has developed a lot over the last decade in particular. It is today a very well-recognized agency around the world, and I think here we have a participation from all continents as well around the world, and of course mainly from Europe, but we have as well colleagues from other regions. It shows that what has been done by the team, what has been done by my predecessors, has delivered a lot of value for the industry. So the point is today to make sure that we continue to deliver this value, but that we make as well the agency sustainable and fit for purpose, fit for the future. That's really what is at stake. We are in a situation globally where we have financial difficulties, where as well we have grown a lot, again, in terms of scope, and this has stretched the resources of the agency quite a lot in terms of skilled competencies. We have as well internally a significant renewal of generations. You might have some speakers here today which will be on the stage that you won't see next year because they will go, for some of them, on retirement. They were the ones who created the agency 20 years ago, so we have to face this. I'm not aiming at anybody in particular in this table. We have to face this generation transitions, the knowledge transfers that we have to operate. So these are things which are more internal things, but this has implication in our way to collaborate with you. Because at the end of the day, we have limited resources, which means that if we cannot deal with all the applications, with all the work that is given to us, we have to queue up things. We have to proceed with the so-called gateway, which is a kind of waiting room. It is not nice. That's not what we want to do. So we are going to act on it to become more effective and efficient at managing those interactions. But it does not only rely on us. It relies as well on the fact that we get the proper financial resources, and this is something which we are really acting upon so that we fix that in the next coming months so that we are becoming again financially sustainable. This will have implication, by the way, I say it publicly, I've said that already on some occasions, on the fees and charges which are being charged by the agency. So you can expect some increase from that standpoint. We are working on it. We will do that with a collaborative spirit, but at the end of the day, I'm not a magician, and we have a growing scope of activity, so we need to get the resources that go with it. It is down as well to the way we work with you. I see a lot of exchange of paperwork. I see a lot of exchange of information which is not necessarily digitalized or not necessarily processed in the best way possible. So we are engaging as well into a significant digital transformation in-house to rebuild our digital backbone. This has been built along the years, kind of piling up technologies one after the other one. Some are already quite old, outdated. We have to renew them. This is a significant effort, both in terms of manpower and financial effort. But this can work only if we are listening to you on the needs, but as well if we are welcoming these changes together. So that's as well my message. I know you will have a dedicated session in the afternoon. You're getting digitalized. We are getting digitalized. We have to work on that together and to make it happen, which means that this will require as well discipline, because I'm coming from an environment where I've done some digital transformation that's full of engineers in the room, and with engineers, they always have an opinion on IT. No matter what they do, no matter who they are, they always have an opinion on IT. They always think that they can do better than the IT guys. They always have something very special that cannot work for them, that might work for the neighbor, but certainly not for them. So this is not going to happen this way. So I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we are going to listen to you more in the way we make it work than in terms of requirements that we will put in the system, because we're going to get systems off the shelf which are standard across the industry, and we're going to implement them, and we're not going to ask everybody what is the very special thing that one company or the other want to have. We have to roll it out as it is done in many industries from a top-down perspective, and this is the only way we will be successful. So this is the plan ahead of us. One last thing I wanted to highlight before I stop here and I leave you for all the good discussion I hope you will have today, which is the spirit that we want to have. And to me, I don't have to say it for the team. I'm mainly reiterating it for you. It's really that we are in an environment where we can only work together. We have different roles, we have different perspectives, but as far as EASA is concerned, we are in this mindset of being both an authority, but as well being a supportive authority, in the sense that we want to be service-oriented, we want to listen to you, we want to make sure that at the end we deliver value, and coming back again to safety, this is something we can only accomplish together. It's not you on one side, us on the other side, the member states on another side again. It's really, in my view, an ecosystem that has to work together, and this is really, I think, the spirit of this event. That's how it has been built. I know you started already yesterday. I think that the team made sure that the agenda of this event was as well shaped with you, and to me, this is really, again, the spirit in which we are engaging, and what I want to continue to push through in the agency. So these were for the key messages. This being said, now I wish you a very fruitful event. I know it will be a too busy day. I know you started for some of you already yesterday. So whether you are in this room or watching up on site, I think we have about 400, more than 400 participants in total, about 300 in this room and 100 online. I wish you a very successful event, and again, I will be looking forward to the outcome of those discussions, making sure that we have some takeaways and to implement together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Florian. Okay, so this morning's session is on the theme of working with EASA. So first of all, some housekeeping items. So we'll be using Slido, and we should have the QR code up soon for you to, okay, so Slido, all the questions we take will be through Slido, so please take a moment to scan the code. Feel free to enter the questions as we're going through the talks, but generally we'll have a question and answer session at the end of each of the talks. We've got the Wi-Fi details down there for you as well. One other housekeeping item, I know it's still the beginning, but at the end of the day, there will be containers downstairs when you leave for you to put your badges and passes in that allow us to reuse these items again. So let's move on with the agenda, because the next item, we're fairly squashed this morning. So the first item this morning is an update on the EASA Agility project, and therefore I invite Pietro Piliero to the stage. He's a senior PCM within certification, and more importantly, he's our project manager for Agility. Thank you.
Good morning. Today I will speak on behalf of the CT Agility team about an EASA project that started 4 years ago with the target to enhance the way the agency works, considering the challenges and opportunities of the next decade, among which we can mention digitalization, as Florian just anticipated. We all know very well that aviation safety is the core of the EASA mission, but the agency mandate includes also the support to the industry, and this is why we are introducing the concept of level of service together and beyond safety. Level of service is what connects the expectations of the stakeholders with the agency words, with respect to the technical dimension and the planning dimension. That is the focus of today. Expectations of applicants and EASA teams can be combined together and are summarized in 4 main points, addressing the target of compliance demonstration, the need to focus on what really matters, but also working on the user experience in terms of transparency and predictability, with clear rules of engagement. For that, EASA has worked over the last years on the technical dimension, defining processes and procedures to manage certification tasks that are becoming more and more diverse and complex. Also, in relation to the population of applicants and EASA workforce that are constantly changing. But the technical dimension alone is not enough. That's why we have decided to work also on the project management dimension for planning, monitoring, and workforce management to ensure that our activity is sustainable in the long run. The EASA vision on project management for certification activities is defined in 3 levels that are strongly interconnected. The first level is planning, that occurs at individual project level and involves applicants and EASA teams that are expected to cooperate on planning. At the second level, we intend to implement active monitoring on key indicators, providing PCM and section managers with reports on the ongoing activities for a group of projects. At the third level, we have the workforce management, that is a process to steer the use of the EASA limited resources for dealing with the huge amount of actual work in the pipeline. And here, the challenge is to maintain the workload at acceptable level for EASA staff, while addressing the needs of aviation industry at our best. All this is possible with digital tools already available at the EASA. For the planning at individual project level, we have updated SAPIAC, that is our SharePoint platform for initial airworthiness, with basic planning functions, and we are working on guidelines for effective implementation. Our approach is to keep it simple, but capturing all the essential information to know exactly where we are and what needs to be done next. The experience suggests that engaging in planning bonds the team, applicants and EASA, and creates synergies as we expect to establish a cooperative planning environment. On EASA side, there is a clear empowerment of the certification project team, and in particular of the PCM. It is worth emphasizing that this is the foundation level, level 1, and accurate planning from applicants and the EASA teams is what drives all the rest. The idea is to start using SEPIAC for planning purpose on initial airworthiness projects, TC, ETSO, changes thereof. And for this, we have defined 2 planning categories, blue and green projects. As you can appreciate, the volumes are different, as well as the average duration and effort expected. And this goes with complexity and associated technical risks. For these 2 categories, we are defining the strategy for planning in SEPIAC, tailoring the approach to the project size, level 1, and for monitoring through Microsoft Power BI dashboards at level 2. And the workforce management process will guarantee that these projects are executed, achieving the EASA mandate for safety with a good level of service. Few more details on the second level that is dedicated to the review of projects. So based on project data collected through SEPIAC, reports will be generated using Power BI software to support PCM during the regular review with applicants, with the possibility to verify the progress also with respect to the baseline plan. Key project data are then compared with averages for a sustainability check to monitor the certification activities at the level of section and department as needed. This monitoring level is also available for DOA team leader to complement the analysis of DOA performance feedback. And here we arrive at the most challenging part of this project, the workload management. So this is a known problem for all organizations, and with no surprise, also EASA struggles to manage the workload of its resources that are limited and shared in a hybrid matrix organization. The idea here is to create a steering community of managers that are all sender and receiver of work and resources, and we intend to provide to them a tool to visualize the planned work in the near future, so that peaks of workload can be identified well in advance. This is the level where recovery actions will be defined through priority definition or redefinition, work share strategy, leveling of workload among resources, sequencing, I know is not nice, and staffing plans when needed. This is, in fact, establishing a governance system within the Certification Directorate where the initial assignments are regularly adjusted on the go and key decisions are taken. So beyond workload management that clearly helps to execute projects, the EASA certification governance team is looking for an efficient and healthy workforce management process. So what I just presented is the EASA vision on project management, but we have more than just a vision. We have done a lot of work on tools and processes over the last 2 years, and we have already deployed enhanced planning on many blue projects. You remember, blue and green. We are now ready to test the system with applicants on green projects that are the vast majority. Of course, the success of this initiative depends on the participation of applicants, so your participation. And considering that this is a big change, we will be cautious in the introduction over next year. And hopefully, we will reach a new routine from 2026. So applicants are invited to enroll for pilot projects to gain first-hand experience by contacting the relevant EASA PCM and section manager. Towards end of year 2025, we intend to publish guidelines for planning, mainly for PCM and applicants, and guidelines for workforce management targeting the EASA CT governance community, after having optimized the relevant procedure. To conclude the presentation, I would like to summarize why applicants should support this initiative, in our view. by listing 4 main areas where we expect to see visible improvements. Greater transparency on technical and resource challenges, clearer rules of engagement, higher focus on safety-related matters, and enhanced predictability on project execution. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Pietro. We now have time for a few questions. So if we can go to Slido. So the first question, could we use CPAC to monitor the performance, schedule adherence of the project?
Yes, of course. This is exactly one of the targets.
Okay. So next question, level 2 monitoring. How transparent will EASA be with the applicant of the KPI performance of this aspect during the respective project change?
Well, transparency is the focus, together with predictability of this initiative. And during the review management meeting that usually occur, all those data will be available first internally and then to be shared as necessary with applicants. But the idea is when we plan together, so the applicants will do, of course, his part, and then we'll have visibility of what is the activity that comes next for EASA on a review of document or working on a task. So yes, you will have finally transparency of when EASA will execute a certain task.
Next question. Does the new planning software allow EASA management to see how overloaded a particular panel is?
Yes, this occurs at the level 3, workforce management and workload assessment. We are able to combine all the input from the individual projects and visualize what is the workload of individuals, or group of individuals.
Yes. Okay, good. Next question. What is the efficiency increase expectation from EASA by introducing CPAC?
Well, if I were a consultant, I would say 20%, but I'm not a consultant, so we will not create capacity with this tool, but we enhance the level of control and, let's say, we empower the CT governance on this. So we expect to see improvement. I don't want to quantify.
Yeah, it's more about, I think, predictability, and predictability for you as well as us. So, but hopefully should bring some efficiency along the line. And then we have time for one last question. Will there be means for the applicant to provide metrics feedback back to EASA?
Well, the system itself will allow to calculate metrics and feedback. And in the pilot project phase, we are expecting to receive your comment, your input, and with the limits of our IT resources, we can work together and find good compromises, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the design is not systematically, but we're always interested in getting the feedback, and we can take this comment and we will consider it. Okay, so we've run out of time. There is a planned session at the end of the morning where, if everything goes to plan, we should have more time for more questions across the whole morning session. So if you have more questions, we should be able to have potentially a chance later. Thank you very much, Pietro.
Bye.
Okay, so our next item is Part 21 Regulatory Update. So I'd like to invite to the stage Marcello Miano, who is our Section Manager for Initial Airworthiness Standards and Specifications, and Alexandru Enaca, who is our Senior Regulations Officer for Initial Airworthiness.
Good morning, everybody, ladies, gentlemen. We are in a beautiful location. It is definitely exciting to see this nice audience from here. There were a few words that were already mentioned. The working together. This is the morning session working with the EASA. And I would say that what we are presenting today about our rulemaking activities is actually the result of the working together. Before we provide you with an overview of the ongoing projects, I think it's interesting to notice that actually the rulemaking process is built on you, and you have different steps at which you contribute to that. With our stakeholder advisory board, with the SAB, you contribute to the planning of our rulemaking activities. Then, when we move to the drafting of rules, you are maybe familiar to the comment response tool that allows us to provide us feedback on the draft regulation. And we have a lot of event workshop during the design phase of new concepts in which we enjoy to interact with industry, and we need to interact with industry. And finally, we have different events to support the implementation of rules. So what I'm presenting today, I think, is what we did by working together in the last years, and it gives a perspective on what we will be working together in the next months and years. So we will go quickly to the part 21, referring to recently published rules and upcoming amendments and future developments. And on that, I'm really glad that Alex is with me on the floor with his experience to drive you on the upcoming amendments to part 21. We will move to part 26, referring to the latest opinion published by EASA that will move in a regulation most probably adopted by the end of this week. And then we will conclude with an overview of the certification specification amendments coming by the end of the year and next year. So on the already published rules which are in the implementation phase, SMS is a subject of discussion with you, of interfacing with you. The topic was widely covered already in last year's conference. There was a dedicated day, and there were also another event that was planned by the team in June 2024. And yesterday, there was a presentation from my colleague Lex on SMS implementation. The requirements are applicable since March 2023. And as you know, and it was also discussed yesterday, design and production organization have 2 years to close any findings of non-compliance related to SMS requirements. So deadline is approaching quickly, and we hope that all the discussion we had are supporting the implementation. On part 21 Light, this was introduced to enhance proportionality for general aviation. In last year's conference, you had a dedicated presentation on those requirements. They are applicable since August 2023, and we had a handful number of cases for new TC, but also for transfer of TC holders from part 21 to part 21 Light. And now I pass the floor to Alex.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to guide you this morning briefly through some upcoming and future changes to Part 21. And we will start with upcoming amendments. That means regulations which are already adopted but are not yet applicable. And the first one is Part IS. As I'm sure all of you know, the regulation have been adopted, at least the one which is applicable directly to design and production organizations back in October 2022, Regulation 1645, and there is a transition or applicability date established for October 2025. That means 3 years for design and production organization to implement these new requirements. It's a transversal regulation. It's applicable to most of the domains and to approved organizations. In production and design, it's introduced through hooks, if I can call them this way, hooks introduced in Part 21, to supplement the production management system and the design management system with the requirement to implement also an information security management system. AMCs and GMs have been published last year in July, but in addition to this, there are all kinds of activities which are supporting the implementations. Maybe some of you have already attended a dedicated workshop beginning of November for Part IS implementation. If not, I can suggest you to review the discussions that are published online. In addition, the agency is working with NAAs in a so-called Part IS implementation task force to provide some additional guidance. For example, what is available now and is published on our website are guidance for organizations which have already implemented information security management system according to ISO 27001. And they need to review the gap and put in place the required elements to show compliance with Part IS. Also, there is guidance available for organizations which may apply for a derogation from Part IS. The support will not stop here. Next year, we expect organizing, maybe before summer, another workshop. And also coming, hopefully before summer, an update of AMCs and GMs, which take in consideration the lesson learned and the experience accumulating from the first implementation projects. The second topic, again, a regulation already adopted and applicability coming soon, is the package for unmanned aircraft systems and VTOL. In the area, okay, these packages cover initial, continued airworthiness, and operations. In the area of initial airworthiness, the focus was to make the necessary updates in Part 21 for certification of UAS, of course, for the categories which are requiring a certification. An EASA opinion has been published August last year, and the regulation adopted in May this year, with 1 year of transition, becoming applicable May next year. Currently, there is a package, an NPA, a package of AMCs and GMs, which are consulted. You still have time to provide comments to this package until 4th of December. In Part 21, the package is not so extensive. There are basically two sets of AMCs and GMs, one addressing critical CMU components, and the other one addressing flight testing specificities for UAS and VTOL. That's all with regulation already adopted and which will enter into force, which will be applicable soon. Now, let me present a few ongoing rulemaking projects, which will in the next year, will amend Part 21. I will start with amending the environmental protection requirements in basic regulation and in Part 21, in initial airworthiness. As you may know, ICAO has this 3-year cycle of reviewing and amending environmental protection standards and recommended practices in Annex 16. And we have an open rulemaking task to take these latest amendments of Annex 16 in Part 21 and in basic regulation. An NPA was published last year in November and an opinion in May, and we are expecting quite soon to, actually Okay. We are expecting quite soon to have the regulation adopted. The amendment to basic regulation will enter into force more or less immediately, where the amendment of Part 21 will enter into force in May next year. Will be applicable from May next year. And we will publish also some updated AMCs and GMs to Part 21 in the same time. Part 21 regular update. That's also, as the name says, it's a regular task, a rulemaking task, which has now an open cycle. What is maybe the novelty for this cycle for Part 21 regular update is that we have extended the terms of reference, and the deliverables are not only proposing changes to MMC and GMs, but also proposing changes to the requirements in Part 21. Of course, this still having the same principles, so that means miscellaneous improvement of non-controversial nature. We have published an NPA in April. The public consultation closed end of July, and we are now, if you want, in reviewing of comments phase. And we plan an opinion later next year with adoption of regulation amending Part 21, maybe towards the end of the year. We receive approximately 250 comments on this NPA, and we welcome, of course, all of them. What we can say, just briefly, maybe anticipating a little bit what you will see in our comments response document. There are comments which may indicate that the topics which have been included in this NPA may have deserved to have a dedicated rulemaking task, so we will intend to separate these topics and treat them separately. We also have received comments which actually encourage us to go beyond what we propose in the NPA. This is the room for taking into consideration these comments is relatively limited because we would need to reconsult. So that's some kind of limitation. But for sure, we will consider your comments for future rulemaking activities. Next topic is non-install equipment. Actually, the next two topics you have heard in the past year, a couple of years even, a lot of it about these coming changes to Part 21. At a certain point, initially they were together, but at a certain point we separate non-install equipment and the review of ETSO system, and we progress quicker with non-install equipment rulemaking task, and we are planning to issue an NPA maybe by the end of the year, hopefully. Non-install equipment is defined in basic regulation. I will not repeat the definition here. I will just present the basic principles which we have in mind. So a reduced impact on existing processes in Part 21 and basically making the ETSO authorization process applicable to non-install equipment as well, but not to all non-install equipment. It will be mandatory for non-install equipment which require to be airworthiness approved in the OPS rules, and for the others, if the manufacturer of the equipment wants to voluntarily apply. Just to give you a taste about coming NPA, we will basically replace appliance with non-install equipment in the definition of article in Part 21. This is already anticipated in the basic regulation in Article 140 for the transition measure, but we will implement. That will bring quite a volume of changes because appliances, the term is used in various places in Part 21, so we will have to amend this. But then the main changes will be in subpart K for describing the two scenarios I was talking about regarding certification of non-install equipment. So when the airworthiness approval is required in OPS rules, and if voluntary. The second part of, as I said, of this rulemaking task, which we separate, the second part is a review of ETSO authorization process. This task is in discussion or in concept phase for a few years already. We have various exchanges with the industry on this, with the bilateral partners. We understood the concern and the conditions which have to be observed for going forward with this rulemaking task. What we want to achieve is simple. We want to make the ETSO authorization more proportionate and to address the complexity and the increased complexity and criticality of ETSO articles to be certified. And for this, we are focusing more on capability demonstration for design for the ETSO applicants or ETSO approval authorization holders. And we are planning to issue an NPA next year. With an opinion, of course, and regulation coming in 2026. The concept have been presented with various opportunities in the past. If you remember the last year conference, there were 3 categories. Now, after a long discussion, we reduced this to 2. We have a standard ETSO and the advanced ETSO. And as I said, we want to touch on design capability demonstration. And on one hand, we will go for a declared design capability for standard ETSO, which currently, as you know, require an alternative procedures to DOA. And for the advanced ETSO, we would like to introduce the DOA as a condition for the applicants. Yeah, that's, I think, all I want to share with you. I will give the microphone back to Marcela for the last.
Thank you, Alex. I see time is passing, so I will be a bit more quick on the next slide. But on part 26, just I referred before, we issued an opinion in June of this year. We were in touch with DG Move, the European Commission service, and the regulation is expected to be adopted this week, maximum next week, with entering into the force as of 1st of January. The CS 26 offering means of compliance and guidance material for the implementation of the regulations is at the last stage. We are performing the very last internal review, and we expect to publish this in December. Just to raise your attention, I will not be reading the slides, it will be provided by you, but this opinion is actually the converging point of 2 different rulemaking projects. The second one, as you can see there, is referring to transposing new SARPs from ICAO Annex 8 and in Part 26, and is about design approval holders making available to operators of airplanes and helicopters information on cargo compartment fire protection capabilities as certified. There will be guidance on how to make available this information in the CS 26 that will be published soon. The first project that is converging instead on the opinion 5 is safety-driven and is about mandating the installation of a crash-resistant fuel system in existing rotorcraft design, still in production, and the retrofit of existing rotorcraft that are registered in EASA member states. We were also mindful of the feedback you provided, so we used the opinion 5 to postpone the applicability date of the requirement for newly produced large airplanes used in CAT to be equipped with the ROAS, and the new date is 1st July 2026. Finally, to address level playing field issues, we add further aeroplane models to the list of models exempted to comply with point 26.147 on conversion of Class D compartment. And we use this rulemaking task, this opinion also to address existing requirements that need to be clarified. Again, this is the result of the comment you provide to us in previous years, in previous months. Time is running, so very quickly. So we have 3 CS amendments coming by end of the year, CS 25, CS ETSO, and CS 27-29. The main information here I want to pass is every time we draft new amendments, there was a question that was raised yesterday as well when there was a presentation on CMEMO. We go to screen the different certification memorandum that were issued to see if something can indeed embed in the CS together with an amendment. The amendment to CS 25 and to 27-29 are actually addressing safety issues, are safety-driven, while the one on ETSO is a regular update aiming to recognize the latest industry standards, but also to take into account feedback you provided and the harmonization with other authorities. Next year, you will see the CSE amendment coming. Here also is the results of harmonization work with FAA mainly. And for the CS23, we have an amendment coming in 2026, but the NPA will be published for consultation next year. This amendment will be driven by the objective of integrating new technologies and reflecting the harmonization efforts with other authorities, FAA, ANAC, and TCA, and taking account any feedback you provided, as well as any safety improvements in this area. And this is my very last slide. Your feedback matter. We highlighted it several times. We have a mailbox, certification.queries@easa.europa.eu. You can reach us for feedback on implementation, queries on our regulation, feedback on the guidance material we issued. This mailbox is also behind the web form you can access to from EASA website. Of course, this email is not replacing the contact you have with your DOA team leader or PCM for a specific project. And thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Marcella. Thank you, Alex. If you want to take a seat, and we can go to Slido and have a look which questions we have. Okay, so the first question, what happens or does that have not implemented, DOAs that have not implemented everything of Part IS in October 2025?
Yeah, maybe I can try to give a short answer here, even if maybe it's more for the operational departments. First of all, there is a certain distinction between the approach for implementation of SMS and for implementation of ISMS. For implementation of SMS, you know, there was applicability roughly 1.5 years ago. And then, if not implemented, the DOS, POS receive a finding, and you have an extended time of 2 years to close this finding. In case of Part IS, there is a different approach. There was a transition or an implementation phase larger, 3 years. However, once the deadline in October for DOAs and POS, October next year, will be reached, there is no extended time to correct the findings. So the finding process, I suppose, will be followed, and also the resolution and closure according to applicable requirements. But the rest, maybe it's for operational departments to.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Carmen Bosso, Design Organization Section Manager. So I fully agree with what was said by Alex. Actually, we will not get any threatening letter as it was for SMS implementation, right? We will see the status at the deadline for implementation of the rule, and then we normally, if there will be identified the lack of compliance, for sure we'll go through the finding management process.
Okay. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Alex. So the next question, with the current EASA workload issue, how confident EASA is to be able to cope with SMS and ISMS implementation in 2025, taking into account the SMS experience? So maybe we...
Yes, again for me. What I want to say, this was a question raised also by Fabrizio, if I'm not mistaken, right? So for sure, there has been quite a huge lesson learned exercise from SMS implementation. And usually we are going also to make benefit of a PSOE scheme for Part IS. Will be the same, but our expectation in terms of maturity will be certainly lower than for SMS. But this is all preliminary, because actually we are going through an exercise of building up policy which is transversal to all organizational approval. So it's a good alignment that we want to achieve, and we are making also these policies very much proportional to complex and non-complex organization. So for some of you which have attended already other session on Part IS implementation, this policy is expected to be mature in January 2025, and will be really focusing on PSOE, proportionality, scalability for complex and non-complex organization. There was also a question related to Form 82, if I'm not mistaken, yes. As part is not part of the design management system, Part IS implementation will not require a significant change through Form 82, okay? There might be other means which I cannot anticipate so far because it's part of the general discussion, but for sure will be not a Form 82, okay? Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carmen. Okay, so the next question. For ETSO Advanced, will there be some associated DOA privileges?
Yes, I can take this one. But the short answer is yes, there will be DOA privileges. Maybe some of you already know we had some attempts in the past, to invite the ETSO authorization holders voluntary to apply for a DOA and getting a DOA, and there were some cases where we have issued DOA. However, the limitation at that time was that no specific ETSO privileges could have been granted to the DOA. So they, let's say they took the burden maybe to have in place of DOA, but no privileges. Of course, with what we want to introduce in Part 21, there will be a full benefit of DOA, but this, I would like to highlight, is not limited to privileges, but also to the formalized framework we have in place to assess the DOA performance and to use this DOA performance in establish our level of involvement. So privileges, for sure, yes, but also customized, better customized to the DOA performance, better customized of EASA level of involvement in ETSO projects.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, so the next question. So is there any plan to extend the Part IS implementation deadline from October 2025? And I see maybe it also goes with the one below about what are the criteria, excuse me, of potential derogation, and do we plan to amend the Part IS to alleviate derogation needs? What can we say about these?
I can quickly say that there is no plan currently to modify the applicability date.
Yes.
Currently, there is no plan.
What I can say more, and is again still part of the ongoing discussion, that you know that there is a terms, the manual has to be approved, the initial issue of the manual has to be approved, and copy has to be provided to the authority. And we are actually brainstorming what does mean approved and when should be approved the manual. So this is the discussion. And again, as Alex said, it's not about pushing forward the deadline for implementation. What I can say more is that myself, when there was this idea of derogation in the rule, I was quite excited. So I started asking for more guidance because also to have, more proportionate approach, and this will be the extreme bottom line for Part IS. And yes, we are working on more on a guidance which are more making sense, no? Right, for the DOA environment. Not only looking at the complexity of organization, but more focusing on the scope. I just want to make an example, because maybe this make the concept clear. For instance, the DOA just doing cabin interiors, not having avionics at all in the scope, may, or just minor, which by definition they have no impact on safety, I would say, when properly classified, right? Those might be eligible for derogation. So now we are working in the task force with the colleague in SM, with Davide Martini, really to try to think about generic derogation, which might be, the way forward, again, for organization doing only minor change, minor repair, and limiting their technical scope to cabin interiors. This is what I can anticipate. I cannot swear on that, but this will be part of the policy I mentioned earlier.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. So time for just a couple more questions. So the next one is the EASA able to share some insight about the plan roadmap and its expectations to Part IS implementation? Do you have anything more, or I think, okay, we covered this as much as we're going to cover it today, and I think there was sessions on that yesterday, so we go to the next one. Will there be a review about SMS implementation, i.e. comments received? This will help us for Part IS. I think it's natural we will, following anything like this, we try and implement some sort of lessons learned and see how we can do things better in future. So I think that one will answer that one. If we go to the next one. I think this was answered. The Form 82 was done already. Okay. Is derogation only for seen means of proportionality? Will there be guidance material for smaller organizations? That's covered, okay. What are the benefits of advanced ETSO over standard ETSO? Will we consider more delegated approach for advanced ETSO projects? I don't know. Or Gregory, if you want to say.
Good morning. I'm Gregory Liev, the head of DOA and ETSO department. So this was partly answered by Alex already. So indeed, we have more requirements in terms of organizations because we'll mandate a DOA for advanced ETSO. But this comes with privileges and with a lower LOI. So that's the balance we are trying to reach. I want also to highlight that this is a process which started a few years ago. There were many engagement points with industry. We are really working hand in hand. And during the rulemaking task process, there will be also some touch points. So we have a plan with the affected industry to keep them involved during the rulemaking process. We had already some engagement a few weeks ago with some surveys on some ideas we have. So we are well aware of the impact of this change on industry and we want to make it sensible. We are also highly involved into exchanges with our international partners, in particular through the CMT, to make sure that whatever we do is aligned as much as possible with the FAA, TCCA, and ANAC Brazil.
Okay, thank you, Gregory. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I know there's a lot of more questions there. As I mentioned earlier, there is a dedicated session at the end, and maybe we come back to some of these if we have time there. Thank you very much, Alex and Marcella.
Thank you, Colin.
So we now have a coffee break until 10:45.
What has always amazed me is our capacity to adapt ourselves to the new challenges.
I feel that I'm making a difference, and the skies are safer.
EASA, as the agency of the European Union, is also cooperating with international partners to ensure the highest level of safety at global level.
And to me, that is a sign of a healthy community working towards a common goal.
We help and listen to our internal and external stakeholders, and together we form a community.
I think it's fascinating what is going on. We really accompany the development of aviation.
Environmental sustainability has been at the heart of the agency from day one. Reducing engine emissions and noise has been part of the original remit of the agency.
We are passionate about aviation and your safety.
Your safety?
Your safety.
Your safety is our mission.
What has always amazed me is our capacity to adapt ourselves to the new challenges.
I feel that I'm making a difference, and the skies are safer.
EASA, as the agency of the European Union, is also cooperating with international partners to ensure the highest level of safety at global level.
And to me, that is a sign of a healthy community working towards a common goal.
We help and listen to our internal and external stakeholders, and together we form a community.
I think it's fascinating what is going on. We really accompany the development of aviation.
Environmental sustainability has been at the heart of the agency from day one. Reducing engine emissions and noise has been part of the original remit of the agency.
We are passionate about aviation and your safety.
Your safety?
Your safety.
Your safety is our mission.